What's up, YouTube? So it's been about what 2 days since Metroid Prime 4 came out, and I played it on stream and also played a little bit on my own time, and I think I have some thoughts about the game. That's certainly a way to put it lightly. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's a masterpiece either. I think it's okay. It has some very high highs, but also has some very low lows. So let's kind of get into that. So before we get into the negatives, I do want to talk about the positives, because there are a lot of positives that are in this game. So the first thing I want to talk about is obviously the controls are impeccable, very smooth, very responsive. I would say though, for any of my Switch 1 players just like me, instead of using the dual stick controls, I highly recommend you do the gyro aiming. In my opinion, the gyro aiming is just way better for these Prime games. It's either gyro aiming or tank controls, or the Wii remote, which is the same thing as gyro aim for me. Those two are the only really logical control schemes. The twin stick, especially in this game, is probably going to hold you back more than anything else, right? But the controls are responsive. I do like the added quality of life changes. For example, you can dash forward and backwards now. You couldn't do that in the other games, so you can only dash left to right. So that's a pretty good improvement. Also, the Morph Ball as well, very smooth. Now, whenever you come out of Morph Ball, you have more control over Samus. In the previous games, she would only move forward with your momentum or whatever like that. But now you can get out of Morph Ball, move backwards, left, right, jump, and it feels really good, right? The controls are amazing. Coinciding with the controls, the bosses and the combat, at least from what I played so far, I feel like I'm about like a third or a little bit more than a third of the way through the game. I'm in the snow area. The bosses and the combat really feel great. I get a lot of Prime 2 vibes, which, not to sound biased, but Prime 2 is the best Prime game, and I will not accept any other opinions. But yeah, I really get Prime 2 vibes from the bosses and the combat. They're fun, they're fast, they're energetic. The best boss so far is I don't know if I should say that, it's kind of spoilers, but I'll just say the intro boss is really good, and the second boss is pretty good, and the third boss is great. But yeah, like bosses and combat pretty fun. I like finding the drones. I've encountered some flying ones and some shield ones, and they're pretty fun, right? But man, they holy shit, man, they do a lot of damage. I think there's a clip of my stream somewhere where I get hit and it does like 70 damage, which is kind of insane. But they're pretty fun. I like dodging around and stuff like that. Of course, it's a Prime game, right? So you have your actually fun enemies, and you also have your kind of like your fodder, right? Like your crawlers and stuff like that. But I mean, like the actual core combat, when it is time to amp up the intensity, is great. And I think besides 2, it's the best out of the series, at least so far. Especially considering that it's actually taken advantage of the gyro aiming. I know Prime 3 did it, but I have some issues with Prime 3. This goes without saying, but it's a Metroid game, right? So the music is amazing. I especially love the music in the Vault Forge. It is perfect, and it is definitely right up my alley. Especially the funky little results music. That was pretty good. I actually really like that, especially when you're well, not especially, but I like the results music when you learn how to drive. That I think it's very entertaining. I like it a lot. And then even like this, the sound design in general is really good. I played this game with a really good pair of headphones, so it's like I was able to really immerse myself for the most part. And that is where I'll get to, not next, but I'll get to that. I must preface this whenever she is alone. But when Samus is alone, my god, the atmosphere is just incredible. The graphics are stunning, the music is stunning, the immersion is unseen. It's amazing. However, just like I said, that's only when Samus is alone, because there are a lot of times in this game, at least like I said, from what I've played, where there are people talking to you, and it just kind of immersion break. Not only are they talking to you, but also they're hand holding you as well, telling you where to go and stuff like that. And whenever that happens, of course, the immersion is broken. But whenever it's just Samus, you just kind of exploring the areas, which you get that little bit of that in the Vault Forge for a little bit, and you get some of that in Viros. And then, of course, I mean, if you count the desert, I guess you can count the desert, but I wouldn't count that. But yeah, whenever it is done right, it's done amazing. And for right now, in my current playthrough, I left off at the Ice Belt, and man, this Ice Belt place is amazing. I'm getting like survival horror type of vibe. I'm getting like the Thing vibe from it, because I haven't turned on the power in the generator or anything like that yet, but I think it's very eerie. But now it's time to talk about the stuff that I really don't like. So let's get started with that. First things first, we already knew it was coming. It's the largest elephant in the room, but yeah, the NPCs are about as annoying as I thought they'd be. I will say though, after the tutorial, Mackenzie does take a back seat but he does, pop in every now and then to give you exposition or handhold you and tell you where to go. And when that does happen, it really just takes me out the experience. Because the thing about it is, my biggest issue with the NPCs is less so their existence. I think, I would prefer my Metroid game to be very isolated and have maybe one or two NPCs. Like, for example, Prime 2, my favorite Prime game, it just has Umos, right? Just a little bird dude. They're like moth people, but you know what I mean. Little moth dude, and that's all you have, and he doesn't really interrupt you that often, right? The problem with the NPCs in this game is that, you meet them, they're kind of cringe. Miles was cringe, and the other guy I recently met was pretty cringe a little bit. His voice actor, no disrespect to him, but the voice sounds very phoned in. But like the first two NPCs I've met so far, I don't like their vibe. we don't like your vibe from around the club. But it's and like not only do I think they're kind of annoying and not interesting, but they're always telling me where to go. And especially in Miles's case, you have to go back to him to get an upgrade, and I'm sure later on in the game I'm gonna have to do the exact same thing. And it's just like I don't see why this is. I don't see how this is serving the Metroid gameplay or the Metroid story or the Metroid franchise as a whole. I think it's not a regression, but it's just not. I don't think it's where the franchise should go. The franchise should not end up having this type of dynamic with Samus and a bunch of a colorful cast of characters and stuff like that. Metroid as a series has a generally more serious tone, right? So I think it just works better with minimal NPCs, especially not NPCs that are always dictating you where to go. That's one of the things I hated about Fusion and Prime 3 is I don't like being told in the game what to do. I feel like it doesn't respect the player's intelligence, and this game honestly has a big issue with that. Lots of times where the game is condescendingly pulling up pop-ups for you, saying, hey, use your morph ball, stuff like that, showing you where to go. And don't get me wrong, in the other Prime games, you had your visor, the scan visor would pop up if you got lost after a certain amount of time and tell you where to go. But in this game, you always know where to go. It's just like Prime 3. You always know where to go, and I don't like that type of design in my Metroid game. I think there's like 2 or 3 more NPCs for me to meet, so I mean, who knows, maybe my mind can be changed about them later on, but as of right now, yeah, I think they're about as annoying and immersion breaking as I thought they'd be, unfortunately. But let's move on to the next point. I think that the well, I guess this is the next elephant in the room, the big thing, the desert. Conceptually, I don't exactly hate the desert, but the way they executed it, at least so far, I don't like it at all. It's too big. I mean, this thing is huge. It's a very big desert. There are a few scattered items and stuff to find around it, right? But it's not interesting enough. It really not to dunk on the game that everyone loves that I don't like, but it really just reminds me of Frontiers, which is a big empty area to run around in, or drive around in, I should say. And I don't see the point of it. And I can get the idea, right? You have a centralized hub. I think it's Zelda games do this a lot, right? Like the Hyrule Field and whatnot. You have a centralized hub, and then from the hub you can actually go to different areas. However, other Metroid games have done this, and the game, well, I say other, I think only really one other Metroid game has done this type of design, but way better, and that game is none other than the GOAT Prime 2. Prime 2 has a centralized hub that connects to different areas, right? But the difference between the way it's done in Prime 2 and Prime 4 is the amount of space in the centralized hub is way smaller, a lot more condensed, right? The Temple Overgrounds is not anywhere near the same as the desert, right? But not only that, I would also say that the actual areas themselves are more interconnected than they are in Prime 4. In Prime 4, every area, as far as I'm aware, is just completely segmented off. There's no shortcuts to get in between these areas. Whereas in Prime 2, you can go from the Torvus Bog to the Aegon Waste and things of that nature. You could do that, so you don't even have to run back through the Temple Overworld to get to places. You know what I'm saying? But in this game, you have to drive through this desert. And like I said, maybe it wouldn't be so bad if the desert wasn't absolutely gigantic with the most uninteresting combat I've ever seen. I mean, you're just driving through crystals and just holding the shoot button and shooting flying things. That's really all there is to it. There's no gameplay depth, no nothing. And I think that's it's just a shame. However, I will say, being able to see the areas off in the distance is a nice touch. And I think, more games could benefit from that type of detail, I guess, in your traveling. And like I said before, this game isn't just bad. It just has some very high highs and some very low lows. Like so far, the highs have been introduction to the Ice Belt area, the Volt Forge for the most part, the beginning of the game with Viros, but then everything in between is just either middling at best or just downright annoying at worst. And I think this is definitely gonna be the most polarizing of any of the Metroid games. Maybe not as polarizing as Other M. Let's not get too hasty, but definitely is gonna be one that people will discuss for years to come. But you know, like I said, I haven't beaten the game yet, so I don't want to keep talking too much about it because I want to collect all my thoughts and make a gigantic mega review. So for now, I'll just say the game, I think as it is, as what I play right now, I give it about, I think like a 6.5, which is, I do on a 10. I'll think about it on a 10 scale, right? So that's, slightly above average, right? It's slightly above average, but of course, it can go lower or higher depending on how the rest of the game goes. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you guys in either the next video or my next stream. So hey, stay tuned.